So welcome to the next in our messages of online videos. This is brought to you by the folks at the Raleigh Congregational Church. This is Reverend Tom Bentley, the pastor. If you'd like to know more about the Raleigh Congregational Church, there'll be some information for you at the end of this video. So thank you for spending time with us. So grace to you and peace from our friend Jesus. If you're blessed to be a parent, you will experience an opportunity which might be a little unsettling as this little child that has come into the world grows. The inquiry in his or her mind is reaching out and considering all the challenges of being a human being, and they have three primary questions which they ask before the age of 5, these little children. Where did I come from? Who am I? And where do I go when I die? Those three questions are presented to the grandparent or the parent or someone because they're pressing questions. They're questions of human existence. They're questions ultimately of faith as it is organized in all of the great traditions, all of the struggling generations way back, even before the time of printed written words, way back, even before the time of speaking words, but just those early hominid moments of consciousness, always asking these three questions in the heart. And the answers that the parents provide set a tone for the journey. If there's anxiety and confusion or avoidance, the child will inherit that feeling of stress and confusion when these questions come back time and time again. So parents like to offer a simple narrative, hopefully, and a comforting one. And therein is born what we can call the child God, the God that serves us well as a little child, as we wrestle with that powerless place of being a child where life is buffeting us about and we aren't allowed any influence. We're simply dependent on others for our survival. Then comes the time of reason when we begin to separate from our parents, and those three questions come back. How have you dealt with those three questions? Are you relying on those explanations that your parents offered early on? Have you built your faith upon them in a sense of tradition or continuity? This is what we do as human beings. Into our stability come those storms of life. They upset our universe. They put us upside down and backwards in confusion. We read in the gospel a time when, yes, the storms literally came in and the apostles were confused, but in the process, they discovered Jesus. Let's take a quick look at our scripture reading in the Gospel of Mark. Later that day, he said to them, "Let's go across to the other side." They took him in the boat as he was. Other boats came along. A huge storm came up. Waves poured into the boat, threatening to sink it, and Jesus was in the stern, head on a pillow, sleeping. They roused him, saying, "Teacher, is it nothing to you that we're going down?" Awake now, he told the wind to pipe down and said to the sea, "Quiet, settle down." The wind ran out of breath. The sea became smooth as glass. Jesus reprimanded the disciples. "Why are you such cowards? Don't you have any faith at all?" They were in absolute awe, staggered. "Who is this anyway?" they asked. Wind and sea at his beck and call. So Jesus stilled the storm and brought some sense of well-being in the midst of panic and fear. And so Jesus does again and again in our life journey if we are walking in that place and path of faith. Is it all denial? No, on the contrary, it's an opportunity for exploration, for inquiry, for questioning. What God is inviting, what the universe invites, is an ever-evolving relationship, not a static one. This is the tradition of those communities of the Christian faith who broke away from orthodoxy that was too rigid and repressive. We call it the Protestant Reformation. It's important that those who affiliate with this bearing in their Christian faith understand that it wasn't just one orthodoxy being exchanged for another, but there is a vital process of inquiry in the faith journey offered in the Free Church tradition. It was John Robinson who, with his followers in the Leiden Commune in the Old World, considered going to the New World for a charter with the Crown so that free, willful inquiry, a life of faith, could occur there unfettered. So Reverend John Robinson, unable to accompany his flock to the New World, offered at their departing these words: "For I am confident the Lord hath more truth and light yet to break forth out of his holy word." The God of construct was failing those early Puritans. They had to reboot, if you will. They had to start over again somewhere. The questions they were asking, the powers of that day did not respect and honor. So they wrestled with their free will and decided to build a new community in a world they had never seen. This is the process of faith. We are invited in this process to give up the child God and to take on a mature and empowering relationship with the divine. Think of our life in general. As adults, we are constantly forced to grow up, to take on responsibilities, to see the difficulty in the political world we live in, and there are no easy answers, to wrestle with the economics of a technologically driven society, to deal with relationships which are constantly changing in our families, amongst our friends, at our workplace. The whole nature of labor is changing. We have to rush and keep up, and if we want to sit down and embrace what we once held close as children, we will fall apart and fail. But with faith, I notice, with the Christian experience, many good souls continue to carry with them the undeveloped and very vulnerable deity they created as a child. And God, the God of Abraham and Isaac and creation and the universe, is constantly breaking into that child God saying, come, come, be more, be more. The Apostle Paul spoke to those Christians at Corinth who were living a very narrow life, and he said, Dear Corinthians, I can't tell you how much I long for you to enter this wide open, spacious life. We didn't fence you in. The smallness you feel comes from within you. Your lives aren't small, but you're living them in a small way. I'm speaking as plainly as I can and with great affection. Open up your lives. Live openly and expansively. Living openly and expansively is also living in a place of threat, because we don't know the answers. We haven't measured everything out. The familiarity is often gone. But the faith journey that we're called to be on is a transformative one. The entire Christian community is being forced and pressured by these storms of change to recognize the Jesus in their midst. I think particularly of a hymn, one of my favorites. It's sometimes called "In the Midst of New Dimensions." It was written by Julian B. Rush, who in 1985, much to his dismay, discovered that he was gay in a church, the Methodist church, that had no hospitality for that. Things have changed in the days that followed his work in ministry. Here's the hymn in part, just the opening words. In the midst of new dimensions, in the face of changing ways, who will lead the pilgrim peoples wandering in their separate ways? God of rainbow, fiery pillar, leading where the angels soar, we your people, ours the journey, now and ever, now and ever, now and evermore. In the lead into this video, there's a little music. You can catch the beautiful music and powerful music that accompanies these words of truth. This is the invitation. We are in the midst of new dimensions. The storms are raging all about, and our child God must be thrown overboard. I invite you to be in a place of maturity and receptivity to the new possibilities. The Christian community is called to understand that the LGBTQ community are not to be cast off, but within their desire to be full and gracious souls, which they are as much as anybody ever could be, they have the opportunity to love and help us build the kingdom on earth that more creatively and more honestly reflects the broad, wide-open love of God. This is the journey. You're on it. I suggest you go back and ask yourself, how much do I rely on the grand God that was offered to me when I was a little baby child? What are those three questions again? Where did I come from? Who am I? And where do I go when I die? That last question is more, what is going on in this life of life? What is it doing and where is it going as I ride its great waves of change? That might be a more open and mature way to ask the question. So in the spirit of that hospitality and that invitation, I offer you the chance to sign on for these new dimensions in faith in our current time. Thank you, and goodbye. So thank you for spending time with us. We hope this message has been helpful. If you'd like to know more about the Raleigh Congregational Church, you can go online at firstchurchraleigh.org. If you'd like to contact us, you can do that by calling us at any time, 978-948-3993. So peace and best wishes in your journey. Thank you and goodbye.